And we're live. Hey guys, what's up? We're here to do talks about stuff and things. Today, we have kind of a full house. We've got Ben, who is always with us, and we have one of not new to the server, but new to dungeon diving is Ray, also known as Romulus, who plays with us on Thursday nights. Some of you might recognize him from our campaign. And then we have the lovely couple, Dylan and Steph, otherwise known as Bow and Shade, or the great people from Vallis Corpus.
Mom and Dad.
Yeah, Mom and Dad. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about Oculent booed you.
Oculent, I will talk to you later.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about favorite D&D adventures, or one-shots, or just experiences that you've had with the game, whether it has been in playing in them or running them, whatever the case may be. That being said, we're going to kind of, since we started a little bit late, I'm going to go ahead and tee things off to Ben and let Ben talk about his wonderful experiences, because I know he has so many.
So many, so very many over such a long and storied career, I guess. I don't know. In its own way, right? But yeah, so we were talking about, what would be good for this, and so, just going down memory lane a little bit, seeing what adventures we've all been through or played in. And so I was going through my list of old dungeon magazines recently, because a lot of my earlier adventure days were literally just digging through dungeon magazines, seeing what looked cool, and then that became kind of what I tried to run for a little while. So they were kind of formative in the early years of the second ed times, and so one of the very first adventures that I came to was an adventure called Cloudkill. It is a second adventure. It was in Dungeon Magazine 79 from way back in the day. And the general conceit of this particular adventure is that the party is kind of wandering around, enjoying their own business out in a mountain, trail somewhere, when a horse falls out of the sky and crashes into the ground in front of them. And they're like, well, that's weird, because a horse has just fallen out of the sky. A little weird. So they go and investigate, and it turns out that the horse can talk. And also the horse, not a Pegasus, but an Asperion or something like that. A horse that can just fly. Yeah. It's just what it does. It just kind of trots through the air, as horses do in the fantasy realms. But it has a problem. And that problem is that there's this weird rust-colored cloud on the horizon that has been poisoning the air, where it and its herd have traveled through the sky, and it was going to go fight that cloud, and it was going to win, and it choked out halfway through and crashed to the ground because it got dizzy, and it just poisoned. Toxic cloud. So he gets the party. He's like, guys, you got to go help. And so the party goes to the source of the dark cloud, and it's this vent shaft coming up out of the mountain. And the party has to figure out, how to get in, do some exploring around. They find a few other ways into the mountain. And down there is Darrow, which are kind of Underdark gnomes, I guess, or Underdark halflings, as Dwergar are the Underdark dwarves. So crazy short Underdark monster people. And they have set up some kind of a forge down here, because they are crafting weapons for a great war that they're going to have someday. And they are just kind of polluting the air with this stuff from their cloud. And they've got this slave pen set up, so the party has to sneak in, maybe cause a slave rebellion at some point, maybe talk the Darrow into not polluting everywhere, or just kill all the Darrow so that they stop doing that. The Darrow have set up a a forge that's powered by a fire elemental that they've captured at some point.
Okay.
But
Fire Force.
there, and also like a wind spirit is involved. Like a sylphid was captured by the Darrow, who was friends with the sky ponies. Yeah, the sky ponies. So she came down to like figure out what the problem was, and the Darrow were like, well, we're gonna beat you up now, and now you're captured. We've taken away your magical powers so that you can't like fly away or whatever.
Oh no.
So you gotta like set her free. But yeah, overall, just a really cute little second ed adventure. And at the end, the party could, if they play their cards right, the party could get their hands on some flying horses. Because like afterwards, like if you solve the problem, the herd's like, hey, we're friends now, right? Would you like to ride us to wherever you want to go?
That's kind of weird.
Now the party, oh yeah, it's 100% like second-edit weirdness all around.
So it's just My Little Pony.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty rad though.
I love flies.
Yeah, Sporelli's particularly.
But no, overall, it's a really cute adventure. I had a lot of fun running it with my friend group at the time, because like some of them were like, oh yeah, we totally have to like sneak in and like cause like a slave rebellion, and the other half's like, can't we just pretend we're like fantasy OSHA and like go to like try to shut down this facility, because obviously they're like polluting the air and they're not running a safe environment.
Get him up to code.
I was gonna say,
yeah, just get them up to code, something.
How old were you when you were running this?
For this one, I think I was maybe 14, 15.
Okay. I was like, this sounds very like young.
Oh yeah, this is
adventure,
100%
yeah.
like young baby's first
evil of the
D&D
world.
kind of situation.
Those are some of the best sessions, though. Like some of the best stuff you can come up with is just the silly things.
Yeah.
Just the little things. It doesn't have to be this
Right.
grand adventure with plot twists and this, that.
Right. It's really not like it's really just look. Go find out where the pollution's coming from and stop it, guys. Like that's the
Like less is more. Yeah.
right. But no, there's a lot of interesting ways you could go about solving the problem. So I liked that about it. Like you could just go be violent, or you could or you could be captured and like get in with the slaves and like figure out how to work that against the Darrow. Like there's a whole section in the adventure about like what to do if the party is captured, and how the Darrow like split up the party between the two slave pens, and different shifts that the party could work on, and different parts of the forge that they could be in. I mean, it's very exhaustive of all of like the opportunities that are here that don't involve just combat. So I really liked that adventure. It was good times. There was a lot of opportunity for my players to have some fun, and we had a lot of good times doing it. But then from there, move on to some fourth ed adventures that came out of the later editions of the Dungeon magazine. So about this time, my girlfriend and now wife had joined the adventuring group, and about this time, Pixies had become a playable race in fourth edition at the time. And so they put out an adventure specifically for first level Pixie characters called Glitter Dust. It was in Dungeon Magazine 211.
I remember that. Yeah.
And the big hook is, a night hag or some kind of swamp hag had kidnapped the fairy princess, and you as a bunch of other fairies and or normal adventurers who have been magically transformed into fairies by the fairy king now must go rescue the princess from the witch's hut. But of course everything is giant sized to you because you're a pixie. So like, bats are now like the size of dragons, and the witch's cat is now like an end boss for you to deal with. and the the kitchen inside the witch's hut has a whole bunch of like animated furniture that attacks you, and so you have to like worry about being chased around by an animated fly swatter.
That's
That's
amazing.
rad. That's actually pretty
I
fun.
love that.
Is this also where you
Um,
guys became the vampire pixies?
Oh no! That was for a
is
different.
Is that a
was for
separate
different
thing? Oh.
2 words that should never
Yeah.
be combined: vampire and pixie.
Oh no, we did it.
I heard.
Vampire with a class, so we did vampire pixies. It was good times.
That gets 2 thumbs down.
It sounds like a very harmless vampire. It's more of a mosquito bite at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Like little mosquitoes.
A whole ass
Great
series
stuff.
could be an entire colony of pixies.
Oh
You know,
my
like, we
God.
can make this
Like
work.
Gulliver's Travel, but they're just sucking on his blood.
You know?
Right. But no, I really did enjoy that adventure. It was a different like way to consider size differences in the game, because like instead of having like one player play like a pixie and everyone else be normal size, like everyone had to be tiny, and so you got to do a lot of interesting like I hide behind the bag of flour kind of situations, or we try to avoid the cat because the cat. So no, my wife really enjoyed those. And then my personal favorite though, from the 4th Ed era, is an adventure from Dragon Magazine. What magazine is this one? 213, Owlbear Run. If you're not familiar with Owlbear Run, it is, I like to tell people, it is Fast and Furious Owlbear Drift.
I was about to say, is this the Fast and Furious Owlbear
Yes.
Drift story?
100%. So the impetus for this adventure is the party comes to a crossroads where there's a sign pointing to 2 different towns. And there's a bunch of people around like a big board, like message board on by the crossroads, and they're all talking about this year's grand adventures. And what's going to happen this year at the tournament or whatever. And the party's like, what are y'all talking about? And they're like, well, you see, the lord of this land has like a big get together every year, and he's got these 2 wizard brothers. One lives in each town. And in my mind, I don't know if any of you are familiar with like NPR's Click and Clack, the Tappert brothers, like that kind of that report, that comedy car report that they have. These 2 wizards feel exactly the same way if you read the adventure. But basically, they hold like a cool challenge, right? So like one year they flooded the valley magically, and like they got to have like a naval combat in the middle of the valley, and people put bets on it and stuff. Well, this year they've captured some owlbears from the Feywild. And the point of the adventure is you as a party get an owlbear and a leash. And your job is to get the owlbear from one town to the other before the other teams get their owlbear from one town to the other. Across the mountains. And so it's got a really cute kind of a sponsorship like mini game. So like you get to the town and there's so if you get in
Ooh.
with that noble, you can like use their owlbear, and each owlbear has its own like little story bit. So like little owlbear, and during like you have to plot out, like they've got a big map of the map
He is. Ben, you are lagging really, really hard.
range. You have to plot your course across the mountain range. Am I?
He's in
Yes.
the zone.
Sorry, let
You
me
are-
slow down a little bit. Get a little too excited.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was just like out of nowhere. We were getting like every fourth
So anyway,
word.
Oh, that's weird. So anyway, you get your owlbear. You have to plot your course across the mountain. There is like adventure points at each point in the mountain race where stuff can happen to you to slow you down, or if you cross paths with one of the other teams, there could be some kind of competitive bit to get you ahead or behind. But like I said, you get an owlbear and you get to race it across the finish line before the other team, and you get a bunch of gold. It's a great adventure with a little bit of combat, and a lot of puzzle solving along the way. At one point, one of the owlbears is actually pregnant, so it lays an egg halfway through the adventure, and you have to convince it to like do so that the owlbear will continue the race.
Oh wow.
Wow.
That's conflict for you.
Right, one of the other owlbears is a coward. So at one point, you run into some wolves, and you have to help the owlbear overcome its fear, so that it can have the confidence to continue racing.
Oh my god.
Wow.
That's great.
This is a really well thought out adventure, and it's a lot of fun, especially if the party finds there's an old cart dealership you can run across along the way, so you can hitch your owlbear up to a cart.
That's crazy.
And just kind of race it across the mountains.
To be honest, it almost sounds Villageville-esque. It's just wacky.
No.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, it's 100% wacky
Was that
racing, but
cartoon
with
Hanna
owlbear.
Barbera where they used to all race across? That's
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
reminds me of.
it's wacky races. Yeah,
That's what it was.
yeah, it's wacky races, but with owlbears.
Yeah.
So with the teams, you've got the very straight-laced, normal human team you have to race against. There's a really competitive dwarf team. There's the evil team that cheats the whole time, and then there's
Team Rocket.
the weird haughty elven team from the Feywild. And if you ever cross paths with them, their team leader, she can talk to owlbears, so she tries to talk your owlbear into acting up so that you fall behind her in the race.
I want to be on that team.
I want to
But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. It's a really good adventure all around.
That sounds so cool.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Those are various adventures that I have run. Now my wife is running an adventure right now. For I don't know if any of you are familiar with the subscription service Dungeon in a Box.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, it is a very good service. It's one of those subscription boxes. They send you an adventure that you can run for about a 1 or 2 sessions before the next box shows up. Each box comes with a mini or two, a map service. You can get it all. There's digital downloads along with it. But the adventure that we're on right now is basically the adventure we're on right now through that is a wishing star has fallen from the sky and shattered into 12 pieces, and you have to kind of go sailing around these islands and just kind of island hop, doing adventure per island to find the fragments of the wishing star so that you can put it together, and at the end the party will get a wish. That's
cool.
That's the end goal of the adventure.
So it's Stardust-esque, kind of.
Yes,
Have you
very
ever
much.
seen Stardust?
Like
yeah.
Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
Whatever that is.
That honestly
But,
sounds like the only way I would get into DMing consistently.
Oh yeah, it's very simple. It's very
Thinking in a
clean.
box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just take the box and just run the adventure straight from it. The little pamphlets that come aren't very dense. They have a few, just a small handful of custom magic items, but honestly, most of the stuff they pull is from the basic rules. So you don't even really have to own a monster manual or anything. Just the free basic rule information is more than enough.
Very cool.
That's really
But yeah, we have a lot of fun with that. We have a little party of 4 that's been island hopping. I have my character in that is a cute little Kenku rogue named Colin.
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 Colin Kenku.
Yep,
I hate you.
He can only mimic other things.
he does. It's good times. Look, all of my bird named
Critical Role for that crap, by the way.
all of my bird named characters have to have punny names because it's just fun that way.
Well, when we did, remember that the 2-part adventure that we did for way back now when we first started the Candlekeep Mysteries.
Julio.
Julio.
My owl folk, Julio.
Julio. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That was I think you all played small creatures.
Yeah,
right?
we all played like small-sized animal race creatures for that adventure.
That's like I wasn't planning on talking about any of mine, but that's probably one of my more favorite adventures. I thought that was really fun, like a fun little thing we did. But anyway.
But anyway, yeah. So those are some of the ones that I've done that were pretty memorable. Like I said, we've done a lot of stuff through like the published books that have come out here for 5th edition recently. Honestly, the Dungeon of the Mad Mage is so far one of my more favorite ones for this one. We built a really deep story with it. We didn't go all the way to the bottom, but honestly, like, I would not suggest ever trying to go all the way to the bottom of the Dungeon of the Mad Mage either. It's quite a slog to get all the way down there, but you can build a really good adventure not even going even halfway.
Dungeon of the Mad Mages, I had a lot of fun. I got to play in that. You ran that. It was like one of the first actual full-length 5e campaigns I got in on. It was a lot of fun. That was where my affection for chaotic evil warlocks was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That particular adventure was 100% geared to be a tragedy. In the end, the party found out that they had lost like 3 floors earlier, but hadn't realized it yet.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't lose. I lost.
There's one of the lower floors is like the floor that has the mind flayers on it, and they're running what is basically the D&D version of the Matrix down there in like little psychic projection tanks that they throw you in, and it's basically like a rebuild of the world virtually. Well, the party was fighting them, and then like things were going really bad for them, and then all of a sudden an NPC showed up and like really helped them out, and then they got to continue adventuring for like another 3 floors or so. But the adventure really ended with the end reveal being that they'd actually lost that fight, and from that point forward they were in the virtual world.
I escaped the Matrix. It's fine.
I escaped the Matrix.
I really did. If I didn't, I couldn't be doing what I was doing right now on Thursdays with you guys.
You wouldn't want to not be in the Matrix.
But no, that was a really fun adventure as well. That's, I think, one of the more fun ones that I have done so far in the 5th Ed era. Is the Mad Mage adventure.
I think the Icewind Dale adventure that you've been running has been really fun too.
So far it's good. We're nearing the end point at that one now. We're in the second to last chapter. I'm really curious how sticking the landing is going to go for it. So we'll see.
Ray,
Oof.
you got got a story or two?
I do. So I'm on the opposite end of him.
Okay.
I don't play published adventures.
Okay.
I don't think I've played a published adventure since I was like in high school.
Oh
I'm
gosh.
45. I homebrew everything. I might rip off things from Dragon, like the old 2nd edition Dragon
Right.
D&D ones are great. I might take stuff from that, and I might plagiarize about 50% of something for like a cool plot, because they did come up with great stuff in 2nd edition days.
Oh yeah,
Dungeon,
second
the
Ed
old
dungeons
dragons.
are great.
Yeah, and so like I grab a good anchor of that. Also, I'm sort of more of a dark person. I don't like furries. I don't like sprites, pixies. I don't like fun, wacky games at all. At all. I refuse to play them. I refuse to run them. I'm dark and mysterious and political intrigue and very serious and moral quandaries in my games. So all my games, and I also tend to run games over play. I don't like to play very often. For me to play, it has to be good. Like I expect certain level of DMing and player participation, and because of that, I don't play very often. I rather just GM. So the pleasure I get from running a game is when a player stumps me, or tricks me, or fools me, and just genuinely I'm like, right, like I'm like my jaw drops when
Right.
a player does something so unique or so cool that I'm like, wow, like I just have to like give him a small golf clap. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And one adventure that comes to mind, and I'm going to throw out his name. It's a friend of mine. I've known him since high school. His name is Eddie. Goes by the name of Nexa in his own little thing. We were in college at the time, and he was playing a paladin, and I have a thing for torturing paladins. This is back in the now keep in mind, this is second edition days. So this is when the paladin, this is when second edition, you had to first have the qualification scores to be a paladin. Paladins had to be lawful good. There was no oaths. This is all second edition. And so he's a lawful good human paladin. Not that it matters, but Eddie is also African American, and he insisted that his character also be African American. Not that it affected the game, but it was just cool, right? Like, Forgotten Realms at the time, second edition, did have places for those kind of things. And so he was from that era. He was like a Muslim sort of character, which came from not the Karatur, Akadim role-playing system from second edition.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? He was a paladin.
I got that box.
Yeah, it's a great box. He was a paladin, but he was like a paladin from that era. So he wore like a sultan suit, and he was a paladin. It was badass, right? And all of us are in college, high school kids playing. You know, we're in college and we're playing. And the plot of this adventure that I'm running it was a story. Okay, so I believe Fright Night and Vamps had just came out with Grace Jones.
Okay.
And that's just, I'm showing my age. And I was into, you had like the other vampire movie that came out with Kiefer Sutherland had just came out. So like vampires were like the in thing. And so I decided that I'm going to run an adventure where Strahd had just came out with their first adventure, which was the Elemental of Evil for second edition. So a lot of people don't know this, but that one adventure is what spawned Ravenloft.
Yeah.
Right? So this is when it was just an adventure. It was like very basic. There was no, Strahd was just a normal vampire. There was nothing to him. So I'm like, man, I really like that character, and I'm going to run it like a part 2 of Strahd without it taking place in Demi-Plane of Ravenloft. So the plot was that Strahd had left his castle and took over a small town. And he decided that he was going to keep the small town alive forever. That he, in trade, the townsfolk will give up their virgins, their beautiful females, to be sucked down and become bloods and become his daughters. They will become vamps. And then he trades with them like blood barrels. They drink a little bit of his blood, become ghouls, and can live forever and create this perfect society in the adventure, in the town. So the town has no violence. It's like a perfect place. It's like Star Trek. Everyone's like enlightened, artistic, beautiful, sexy. They're understanding. They're living for a long time. There are no kids. There are no old people. It's a perfect utopia of this small town with the vampire kind of keeping guards over them with his daughters, all of them different kids selected by him from the town. The player characters arrived there during a storm. It was like a monsoon. They had no choice but to go into the village. And they realized quickly something's not quite right. Everyone's drinking wine. There's no kids. Nobody's old. Nobody's sick. And the paladin, back in the day when he could detect evil and good, could actually detect good and evil. So he realizes that something's not quite right. Everything's tainted here. There's a touch of evil throughout all of its citizens. And the player characters take it upon themselves to investigate sort of what's happening. It happens to be, of course, the day that the shipments are supposed to arrive to the town. So these barrels arrive with these beautiful, sexy, vamp-looking Grace Jones appear in the town. And the player characters are like, what are you guys doing? They're asking questions, and the vamps kind of get defensive. The townspeople just want him to leave. And the paladin takes it upon himself, because he's lawful good, to force his will to others in this town. He attacks the vamps, kills most of them, crashes the barrels, and finds out there's nothing but blood in the barrels. Right? The townsfolk are like, oh my God, really, look, we're not doing anything wrong. We're not evil. We're just like, we've been alive for hundreds of years. Please don't do this to us. Don't do that. And he's like, you're all just terrible people.
Oh God, no.
All of you are like horrible. You need to be saved. You've been corrupted by evil, and me and my party are gonna free you of this. We're gonna go up to that castle, which is Strahd's castle, and we're gonna end him, and we're gonna free you, and you're gonna thank us. You're gonna be able to have children again. You're gonna be able to understand the virtues and the cycles of life, death, and rebirth again, and you're gonna thank me even though right now you're not feeling it. So the townsfolk are begging them to not do this. They don't know what'll happen if they don't take blood. They're, like some of the townsfolk are like licking blood off the grass on the floor because they're freaking out. Because some of them are concerned that they're going to grow old and die and suffer some horrible death. So the paladin refuses to hear it. Right? The paladin is like, no. Your souls have to be saved. So he goes. They go. The party goes in, and I kind of made it. There was an adventure in you're probably not there. Then there was an adventure called the Red Mask of Death. Second edition.
Yes, I am familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, right? So I was like, I'm going to combine the Red Mask of Death with this, which is based off of the story, The Red Mask by Edgar Allan Poe. A group, so Strahd at this point, I made him kind of like French, right? And he's having a party. I had just seen the movie, The Red Mask of Death with Vincent Price. So I decided I'm going to make an adventure that takes place in the castle, and everyone in the castle is just partying, having like these exotic like swinger orgies, and everyone there is either a werewolf, a vampire, a shape changer of some type, right? But they're all like these cultured rich people, and they're gluttonous, and it was all about the rich being very rich and how they're not ever having to work because the townsfolk are like their Morlocks, so to speak. So the players go in there, they're having to interact, they're torturing peasants, it's just a gluttony of the nobility fighting. The peasants, the player characters go around, they're going into rooms, fighting spirits, fighting phantoms. The paladin then detects evil and realizes that everyone here is corrupt, everyone here is evil, and he gets with the party and convinces the party that they're just going to slaughter everyone. No questions asked. If he does detect evil, which was at will, I believe at the time, or like 3 times a day or something like that, they're dead. It's just gonna happen. So the party goes on to this huge slaughter, and it turned into like them exterminating all the residents, and so all the residents of the mansion are trying to hide from them. So like werewolf kids are running from them, vampire children are running from them. They're just slaughtering everyone. No one survives. They're killing anyone and everyone, including like innocent people who are being tortured, right? Because they've been corrupt and touched by the kiss of the undead, and they can't be saved. They're beyond saving. Moral of the story is they get finally to Strahd. Strahd is in the picture of the very first second edition adventure. He's in like the deck looking down at the small hamlet of Harkon, I think it is, or something like that. And so the players meet him in this tower, and the paladin's there, and the vampire, basically Strahd says, listen, I know that you think I'm an evil person, but I'm not. I've come to protect this town because my beloved appears every few hundreds of years, and it tortures my soul. I cannot have this. And so for me to bind and break myself from her, I can never allow there to be children in this town. I've protected them. I've made them a perfect society. There's no crime. They're beautiful. They're artistic. They're inventing. It's what you want a lawful good person to be. Right. And the paladin's like, well, now keep in mind, they're a high-level group. He has a holy avenger, the paladin. He has a holy avenger. And the Strahd, it goes into this huge role-playing where everyone's like, well, you know, what you did is terrible. He goes, no, I didn't force them. They came to me because they were suffering, and I've restored this, and I've restored the lands. We don't bother anyone. Haven't taken a human life in hundreds of years. And I throw myself at your mercy. Please don't do this. Ending me will end every villager in that hamlet. We're connected. If I die, they will die a horrible, hideous, disgusting death, and everyone will remember your name as the one responsible for slaughtering an entire generation of its people. The paladin says that's terrible. He realizes that what he did is wrong. He kills Strahd with his holy avenger. He sees everyone dying and withering away, and this is where he stumped me. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen a player do. Keep in mind, he's, I believe, 12 level, which is the minimum level you can get the Holy Avenger in 2nd edition. He grabs his Holy Avenger, sticks it into the building of the mansion, yells at his god, which I believe at the time he worshipped Torm, I think it was, or Tyr, the god of justice, and he says, Torm, here are my prayers. I now have seen the test that you've sent me to. I was wrong. It isn't black and white. It's about all the gray in between. Please forgive the lives of these villagers with my sword, and willingly gives up his Holy Avenger to restore the life of every NPC that is in the town.
That's cool.
Now keep in mind, in 2nd edition, you can only get a Holy Avenger once in your lifetime, and you can only have an opportunity of getting it once in your lifetime. And I remember just looking at him, I go, dude, that's a +5 Holy Sword of Sharpness. And he's like, yup, I will give it up for the lives of everyone here in the village.
Oh my god.
Well, that's cool.
That's crazy.
Oh
That's
my
a-
God.
Wow.
I love listening to every bit of that. I was locked in. Like,
Yeah.
I was like the players were literally trying to oh, that's funny language. The players were literally trying to like beg him not to, like, we were metagaming. Even I as a GM was like, bro, that's a +5 Holy Sword of Sharpness. You're never gonna get that again. Never. That means you can't get your Holy Mount. You can't go to 15th level. He's like, that's what a lawful good paladin does.
Oh,
Oh.
man.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
That's
What? And it was just like the coolest thing. And just to end off on that, so that was like I'm never gonna top that. That's like how do I begin?
Yeah.
Right? How do I begin? So a few levels later, he gets to 15th level. This is already like a few years later. We're still playing. He's about to graduate college. I ended up joining the military, all that stuff. And I decided I want to come back to this. Like, we need to come back to this. Something needs to happen. So it come to find out that I had made a part 2 to that adventure where an NPC, a knight, a guy in dark armor, comes to him when he's he's sort of like in a bar, of course. And the paladin, this knight comes in. Now, you would probably know the guy who's into the Dungeon Dragon magazines. There was an adventure in a Dragon magazine. It wasn't an adventure, it was an article called The Rose of Talakara. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Sounds vaguely familiar, but
Okay, so
it's been a while.
The Rose of Talakara was an adventure that was done before Soth became a thing in Dragonlance. The Lord Soth.
Okay.
And it was based around Lord Soth before he was called Lord Soth on the land of Krynn. Before he went to Ravenloft. Right? So it was an article. Dragon magazine used to do like these short stories based around famous NPCs like Drist, stuff like that. And this one was called The Rose of Talakara, but he didn't have a name yet. Soth, but it's who it was. Everyone knew he was a knight of the Salamnia am I pronouncing that right? Salamnia of Krynn, right? A celestial knight, like Stern Brightblade.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, I really like that short story. It was like a 2-page story you read, and I'm like, I really want to link this character to have a talk with the paladin. So this Dark Knight comes in. It's nighttime, they're in the inn. This Dark Knight's clad in black armor, ceremonial armor from another land, and he basically shows up and goes up to the paladin and then gives him a black rose. And the guy says, the paladin in his group is like, who are you? And he speaks in an echo. He holds no form. Physically, it's almost like his armor's animated. He's got these dark sodden eyes. And the player does detect evil and detects that he's supremely evil, overwhelming evil. He's so evil, in fact, that he almost becomes physically sick. And he goes, I know what you're doing, the guy says. He goes, I'm vile, I'm disgusting, and I'm everything that you hate. I was once like you, and I foresaw the future, and what I see is you becoming me. I don't wish that. Here is a rose of my love, Talakara. It is a black rose with thorns, and any non-lawful good player character who touched it would die instantly. It would be like, you would have to it was like a cloud kill sort of thing. And so he's like, he grabs it. He goes, I need you to restore this rose to my love so that the curse upon my soul would be lifted. What this will do is destroy me. Do you understand? I'm tired of committing atrocities and evil and villainy, and I now see the wrong of my ways. I've lived for hundreds and thousands of years, and you need to help me end my own life. But I cannot take my own life. I had just seen the cartoon Dungeons and Dragons with the knight Decian and the circle
Oh
of
yeah,
light,
yeah.
Mhm.
right? And so it was like that, right? There was second edition had a character called the Skeletal Warrior where you could control him with like an angel circlet ring. So I linked it up to this character. He goes, listen, my master has controlled me for hundreds of years and passes it down to his family line to commit these evil atrocities. Well, one is he's a drunk, he's an alcoholic, he passes out, and it gives me free will. I don't have much time before he summons me again, but you must go back, you must kill them, you must do this so that I can be free, because I will just continue to harm the world. The player character says, well, I'm not going to work for you, you're an evil person. And he says, no, but you must. That is the true value of being good, to self-sacrifice yourself. I've heard of your tale and the magical sword in the town that you left back here. And he goes, yes. He goes, I can restore that sword in your name. I'm old. I am strong enough to enter its field of protection and retrieve your sword for you and lift the curse and restore your holy sword to you. And he's like, what? And he goes, listen, this you have to do for me. You must kill me. You must destroy me. You must destroy all its benefactors, all of its livelihood, at all costs, to save me and to save the lives of all the countless lives that I will be taking for the next thousands of years. So he leaves. Now, here's the thing. This is how cool the player was. So second edition was very strict about what the paladin can and cannot do.
Right.
He willingly loses his paladin status by working with a chaotic evil character and becomes a 15th level fighter on the spot.
Right.
Yep.
The only way he can restore his paladin status is to take the 7th level atonement level spell in the restoration of accomplishing a task of good, which was restoring the humanity of the chaotic evil Lord Soth back into human form. So now he's just a 15th level fighter in second edition, right?
Which
So
is
I'm like,
still
wow.
pretty good,
Yeah.
but you know.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, you're a 15th level paladin with a,
Right,
you get a Pegasus.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
right.
I mean, okay, you have to understand the second level paladin, at like 5th level, we got a magical warhorse. At 10th level, we got a magical Pegasus. Depending what alignment you were, you could get a nightmare. So he had like full plate. Like he was a very powerful
Yeah.
character. We've been playing it since we were like in high school. So he willingly gives up his he's still lawful good, but he gives up his paladin status, becomes a fighter, tells the party to go after this person, and the adventure just kind of takes place in this other castle where they have to kill this noble family. Now, this noble family has been attached with Forgotten Realms for a long time. It takes them into Cormyr, and it's the old Obarsk family. So it's the family of the King of Cormyr and King Azum, that kind of thing. There's a character there at the time that was trying to overthrow the throne of the king. And so he had the circlet, and they're like, we can't go killing the king's stepson. And the paladin's like, nope, we're going to do it. It doesn't matter what the King of Cormyr wants. He himself is a paladin. So they had to fight like war wizards. They had to fight purple dragons. They're fighting the forces of good in this adventure. All the player characters are like, this is not cool. We don't want to be fighting harpers. But they're doing it all in the name of the greater good, right? They get to the end. They get to the paladin. The paladin's like, the evil paladin, Soth, we'll just call him Soth, says, he has the gem. The paladin has the circlet. He goes, I have it. He goes, and the paladin looks at him Soth and says, well, what now? He goes, will you do what's required of me, or will you make me your captor? I can do good for you if you demand it. The paladin says, oh no. He goes, what I will do for you is greater than anything else. Your love for your wife shows no bounds, and I forfeit my life. He grabs the circlet, shoves it into his heart, and kills his own character, so that the character can be restored to human form and go back to his wife. Which, if you know the story of Soth, it's a beautiful elven woman that he cheats on to be with a human woman, or the opposite way. I'm sorry. And so he does this. the knight's like, no, you can't do that. And the player characters are all kind of looking at him. He gets impaled by the circlet, dies, and yeah, that was literally how the adventure ended.
This player sounds. This player sounds so into it.
Dude, he's a goody two shoes. He's very religious in real life. So let me describe him. He's like very religious. He's a good guy. He's very pure of heart. Lives in Baltimore, of all crappy places to live. But yeah, he's a good guy. He's like really just like, if I had to pick an alignment for him in real life, he's lawful good. He doesn't believe in like violence. But yeah, that ends my greatest stories where
That was
like
great.
That was really good.
Yeah.
where like players stumped me and I was like, wow, dude, that's just, I got shivers just like experiencing having the privilege of having a player who just completely was willing to do whatever it was in the name of his character. And I thought it was, to me, it's the coolest moments, and it's worth playing a game just to relive those moments again.
Yeah.
And it looks like you even got to spin it off to like a second adventure too, which was even better.
Yeah.
It was great.
Well, gosh, Jesus, I'm glad I don't have anything to say. I'm glad it's not my turn to talk, Dylan. No. But I know you guys have got, I'm sure, some good stories. I mean, we've played in some games together that have been really great. Been a lot of fun. What are some adventures that really stand out to you guys that you guys have enjoyed?
I'm just reeling from Ray's stories. And like just listening to him talk, it's like, I don't want to make it weird, but like he has a very like storytelling voice.
Yeah.
I can feel you as a GM for sure.
I can feel it in my brain as he's talking.
You two got to join my game, man. You know, I'm running a game.
I'm joining the whole adventures for the Saturdays for a while. Nebulara will be around for quite a bit, and I hear you're running the second part of that.
Am I? Okay, am I? I am? Okay, sure.
That'd be incredible.
My first intro GM game is this Thursday, a single shot on how the gal got conscripted.
Yeah,
you're gonna like it. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, we'll
definitely have to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, what was I gonna say? This is why I'm so envious of, and I don't mean to be any form of offensive, but it's why I'm envious of like the older players in the D&D community, because like the way they talk, where they drop these names in these regions, because they grew up with the lore.
Right.
So it's like all secondhand knowledge, and everyone's in on the game when you're that age.
Right.
You know, when you jump into this, effectively halfway through, but you're lost in the sauce, and you'll never have that level of magic where you're just like, yeah, I know everything. I was there. I know the old magic. Like, don't cite the old ways.
I was gonna say, like, as opposed to us, like we came in like I came in like 3.5 maybe. Somewhere in there, and then transfer my way into 5th edition. I haven't been messing with like 1st, 2nd edition, 4th edition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We don't talk about 4th edition.
Right, that's right. Regardless of what Ben thinks about regardless of what Ben thinks about 4th edition, we don't talk about it here.
4th edition.
My interest.
4th edition was the best tactical game they could have came up with.
It was.
And I'm going to tell you, it had more versatility. It had the best adventure league. It had. You know why people hated it? I'm going to tell you why people hated it.
Adventure league.
You know why people hated it? Because everybody was equal.
Right.
No matter what class you were, everyone did the exact same damage.
That's fair.
The exact same
Let's
thing.
do a quick experiment. Hey Dylan, you're a 12th level wizard. What's the highest spell level you can cast? Don't look it up. Just tell me.
12th level.
Yeah, right now. 5th edition, 12th level wizard. What spell level are you?
5th.
No. No. 12th level wizard can get you to like 7th or 8th level magic.
Yeah, 7th level.
7th level magic?
7th level.
No. 9th level magic is as high as you can go.
Yeah.
But anyway, importantly, 4th edition. You're a 12th level wizard. What's your highest spell level you can cast?
I don't remember.
12th level, because you're a 12th level wizard.
It's 12.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's taking it out of context, though, right? Like, the whole point is that like, the wizard and the fighter were the same. I think that's what people didn't like. There was no...
I don't think they were the same.
I mean,
they were very tactically different.
Yeah, controllers over strikers over defenders.
Right, but that's the difference. I don't
play
play for combat.
which is
Yeah.
fair.
Despise combat. I'm not a min maxer. I don't know what I'm doing. You put me in a situation. You say figure it out. I say I don't fucking
Right.
know.
And let me
Good
tell you-
luck. But you put me
And
in
that's
any
why
role-play
people didn't.
situation, and
That's
I will
why people didn't
try.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But
That's why people did not like it, because it's interesting. Even the group challenges, which I still run in 5th edition, because I convert them into 5th edition,
Right.
is what she's talking about. A lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
people felt that there was less role playing in 4th edition, and I
Well,
don't
it
understand
wasn't
why.
less role playing. There was just less rules for it and less
Yeah.
guidance. They were like, look, everyone needs to learn how combat works. Here's how combat works.
Right.
Yeah.
How does role playing work? You'll figure it out. It's
In
role
5th
playing.
edition, it's done the opposite of that,
Right.
which is really
Yeah,
weird.
5th edition they flipped it and it's going really well.
Yeah.
Um, but no, sorry, we got a little bit
Yeah, we
off
got
track there,
off
but
track.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're good.
Um,
We're just defenders of 4th edition. That's all.
admittedly I started this, so I apologize, but yeah, no. What's some good experiences you guys have had?
So, I'm sure, I don't know, I never really got to dig into your old stories before we met. Were there any, like, really big ones?
So I started playing D&D in college. I'd known about it for a long time. I know I look 12. College was a long time ago. I'm almost
we're probably
30,
gonna be
so
like-
it's been a while. But I met this wonderful group of people. We met an hour out of town from where I live every Thursday for almost 2 years, out in the middle of the woods around a campfire. We dressed up and we played D&D.
That's awesome.
It was the coolest experience. We had Friendsgiving together. We spent holidays together. We never missed a session. It did not matter. There was a session on Christmas Day, and we did not miss it. We were there. And, you know, I've never run modules before. Everything was homebrewed. We mixed a lot of D&D and Pathfinder together, which was pretty common, I think, back there with some of the races and things like that, because I really wanted to play a Kitsune, but we were running D&D rules and all sorts of other things, so we mixed a lot of things together. And from what I know now, I will say that the DMing kind of sucked. We didn't know what we were doing. We were all new, but it was some of the best experiences
Right.
because
Yeah.
we had fun. I mean, I was in a ranger's cloak around a campfire pretending to be a little kitsune with a giant bear companion. So it was a ton of fun. But the stories back then, I don't really remember. Not only was it a long time ago, but quite frankly, it wasn't what it is today, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have the minds out there. But I didn't start online DMing or playing until I met Dylan. I didn't even know it was a thing. I've always played in person. I've always had physical books, physical dice. I still miss rolling my dice.
Yeah.
It
Good
makes
for
me really
you.
sad.
Yeah.
We've been dating for only 2.
Yeah.
So this is fairly recent, I would
It's-
say, in the world of the pretty old
So-
at this point.
It's very hard
Good,
for me.
good news for you. I'm waiting for them to come out because, as I said last time, next month they're going to come out with dice that you can physically roll, and what you roll on it transfers onto Roll20.
That'll be interesting. Some
Yes.
virtual dice.
Yes,
We can look
yes.
I have to have Bluetooth.
bro. I will get them, and then I'll let you know if they're worth it.
Yes.
Look, they're a little bigger than normal. In fact, here, let me show you.
Oh
They're
god.
about-
This is how big. This is the demo.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay.
That's
That'll
crazy.
fit in my dice
I
box.
wonder if you have to charge your dice.
Right, so it's pretty big. So,
I'm gonna have to
here,
charge
you
my
can compare it to a phone.
That's
Oh
pretty
my
good.
God.
Pretty big.
Yeah,
Okay.
but this is what it is. But they're gonna make them all the dice, the 620, all of that, and you'll roll this, and then whatever rolls will transfer, and it's good for Fantasy Grounds, Fantasy Foundry, VTT, Roll20, Firestorm,
Wow.
and I can't think of the other one.
That's amazing.
That's crazy.
Bright, I think it is. Bright.
That's awesome.
I'm telling you, I believe it's coming out next month. I don't know how much they're going to be, but I don't care. I'm getting them, and never again will I ever just use the stupid Roll20 quantum dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's
I'm
the
sorry,
biggest
go
thing. Oh, no, you're fine. That's the biggest thing about it is I'm used to miniatures, painting
Yeah.
my miniatures, making them customized.
Goodness.
I miss in-person D&D a lot, and when Dylan introduced me to online roleplay, I was kind of skeptical. I was like, you know, you can't get the same things. I am massively into role playing. As Kyle has learned, I will dress up in full costume from head to toe.
That happened last Saturday.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. I saw that. That's
Yeah.
cool, man. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's awesome.
I think that's great.
Love that kind of stuff. And the amount of community that we've built here on all our different sectors has been absolutely incredible. And I realized that you lose very little. I lost a lot less than I thought I was going to by moving into online D&D, especially now with cameras and everything else. You can still see people and you can still experience it. In terms of my favorite experiences, it's kind of hard to narrow down a favorite experience because I have found that I have favorite moments with every single one of my characters. Because Vari, which is, I'm sure we'll both talk about, the Proteran campaign is something that Dylan and I did together for a long time. I was the PC, he was the DM, but I'm the girlfriend, so I always got a little extra information when I shouldn't have. But Vari was hands down not only one of my most thought out characters, but my favorite character. She was an elven druid who had been sent to protect the surroundings of her family grove for over 200 years. So she had been alone in the woods, protecting her grove from kind of nothing, because nothing was happening. For 200 years, she befriended giants and dragons and knew nothing about regular social interactions. So when she was finally forced out of, her guardian status to travel the world, she doesn't know how to interact with people. It doesn't matter that she's 237 years old. She doesn't know how to say hello to you. But she really, really wants to.
Very excited about being in the world.
She's very excited about being in the world, but doesn't know how to handle the world. And there was just some wonderful interactions with her. And she made a lot of, she forced Dylan to make characters more than just NPCs because she would befriend all the characters that meant nothing and make them mean something until he decides to destroy them with a ball of annihilation and have her watch them get torn to pieces because he loves to make you cry. It was a great death.
It was a good. It sounds like a good death.
And I'm still mad about it. And there were times they had to teach her about the birds and the bees. They had to teach her, you can't trust everybody.
So did you have the local druid teach you about the birds and the bees, or? Oh
no, it was a necromantic child. It was a dwarven fighter, and it was a half-elf rogue teaching her about the birds and the bees.
It should be a dwarf teaching her about the bird and the bees.
That was her best friend, Gigi. She also learned that men are quite hairy, and she's not fond of that. And she befriends a dragon that inevitably helps them in the future destroy an army that was coming their way. There were some amazing moments with Vari, and I still think about her very fondly. And what's really funny is that, transparency's sake, the Saturday session I was not excited about. It was a really bad day for me, and Dylan pulled me out of bed and he's like, I really want you to be here. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm not excited about it. It's not something that I want to do. And Nebulara has probably organically turned into one of my favorite characters I've ever created.
Look at that.
Yeah, excited about a character.
I got excited about a character, and it was the best thing ever because I didn't know what I was going to do with her. And I think that's my favorite part is character creation, backstory. I mean, everybody calls me the backstory queen over on our channel because I'll have 5 to 10 page backstories that nobody actually reads.
And just hearing about this paladin is everything.
Right?
Like
all it reminds me is a moment with Vari that may not has been an impactful, but there was a time where they were in a tomb and they had found some old leader of the world. He was one of the initial intelligent leaders, helped create the common society. Nobody knew where he was buried, and we happened to accidentally stumble upon his sarcophagus. And she opens it and sees a necklace and tries to pick up the necklace and then gets flooded with spirits and memories and all this stuff. And I was actually pretty sure she was going to die. And I turned it into, let me take your necklace, let me take your memories, and let the world know that you're still alive. Let us not
cool.
let me not have you rot in this hole where everybody thinks that you are dead and can't be found. Let me let them know that you are here and you are still, your presence is still made a point, and I will let your memory continue to live on.
Right.
Unfortunately, you never got to finish that part of the story.
Never got to-
But that was a lot of fun for me to do in the moment, because I feel like I'm not somebody that's immediately going to go into combat. I'm going to try my hardest to move away from combat if I can. I want to work through it in different ways. And that was a really cool moment for us. And I mean, we've had a lot of really interesting moments. Brea giving the pelt to Bjargar after they killed like a massive freaking wolfen.
Yep.
And he thought they were all weak because I was a tiny halfling at that point. And he was a giant Viking man. And he's like, you are weak, and I don't know why you are here, and you cannot hold grounds in this battle. And then we defeat this giant freaking wolfen, and she carves the pelt and drapes it over his shoulders.
That was an epic fight. The reason I think that moment hit home so hard was because of how the fight went. Because sometimes a simple combat can have its own depth because of the rolls, right? Because
of course.
Who gets the final kill and how dire the moment is at the final strike, and stuff like that. And Bjargar Redmane, I love that name. Even if, everyone wants to call him Burger, but I still love the name. Bjargar Redmane was just this man of a man. It was big.
Red hair, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah.
Red beard and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Redmane was all.
Yeah, that's great. That's how Vikings are, man.
And he told them about this quick tale. He's like, we're going into the territory of the freaking wolf, and it's like actual Norse terminology, because I do that a lot. I take languages, real world languages, and vaguely twist them into fantasy sounding words. So it was a rough translation of the terror wolf, or the wolf of terror, essentially this crazy roaming wolf that is not necessarily sentient, but it doesn't act like a wolf. It's very oppressive. It takes over entire ecosystems, with its pack, and puts things into subservience, and then just kills for the pleasure of it. It loves the hunt. It doesn't just kill.
That's great.
It doesn't kill to survive like an animal should. So it's a terrifying, terrible wolf that exists out there. And he's like, we're going into its territory now, so be prepared. And when they finally got into that fight, it was very dire. People were dropping left and right, and at the very end, Bjargar, who's slightly higher level than the rest of the party because he's their guide, he's the main lead guy, finally gets that last strike in and drops it. He's got no health left. I think he was the most tore up of anything.
He took the most damage as well. He was very close to death.
So I had him he was all over, just struggling to stand. He gets down, he just.
And we take death very seriously. We don't have death rolls in our channel. You hit 0, you die.
Yeah.
Oh.
We don't do death saving throws.
Hard mode. Got it.
I do one between that. I do lingering injuries when you get to 0 hit points.
Yeah.
You automatically get a lingering injury.
Yeah, so we take death very seriously.
Yeah, we straight up. You fall, if you're at 0, you go on. Anything below 0 is instant death.
Not even negative hit points like the old Death's Door?
Nope.
Just nothing.
Ooh, hardcore.
Dead. And I have destiny points, so essentially everyone gets a destiny point, just one. And you can reset your health to 0 if you were to die, or you can reroll.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
It has a lot of uses to it. I play one-shots instead of campaigns. If I was going to do a campaign, I would probably dole those out like inspiration. But for the one-shot sakes, every single one-shot you start, you have a destiny point. So you still have the potential to die. And it's mathematically, it's a higher chance of dying than with death saves. Death saves ruin games.
I agree to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a whole spiel about that. But to stick to the prompt, if it were.
Yeah, because
wait, take a mental note, Kyle. Right there, that's a good topic. Rules in D&D that we don't like or should not.
We've got one of those coming.
Yeah, because I've got plenty. I agree with you on a couple of them, and I'm sure
there are a
We
few.
talk a lot about a lot of things.
I got that too. But so to tell a story, I guess. So I'll try and be somewhat brief, I guess. So I started at 3rd edition when I was younger. 3rd edition came out in 2000, and I was born in 93. I couldn't have even remotely been familiar with anything sooner than that, because even by the time it was released, I was 7 years old. So I had to get into my teens just to even understand what 3rd edition even was and that it existed, and so on and so forth. So I don't have a lot of that background knowledge. That's why when starting out, I had talent for DMing, and I was very just, I just turned my nose up at pre-made modules. I'm gonna make all my own stuff. I just want to be unique about all of it. So I don't have anything to draw from. I just do it all myself, 100%. I rarely even pull from things. I just make it up as I go. And the biggest thing is that I bounce off players. The biggest thing I've done was the Heroes of Proterra campaign. It was about an 8-month-long campaign. We never finished it, but I had reviewed and sourced out players, got this team that just had this chemistry right from the get-go, you know, and we had some incredible times in there. I mean, we had, I'm trying to think of the best, what would you say was like the best moment? Was it?
I mean, the Huntsman Lodge, I
Huntsman
think,
Lodge was probably our most impactful.
Was the most impactful moment, but it's only a moment you could feel if you had gone through the campaign, because we actually tried to run that part of the campaign as a one-shot, and it just didn't hit home as well because you didn't have the backstory or the chemistry of the party.
Yeah.
But that was wonderful because it put us on our edge. So we had 4 players. It was me, I was Vari, my best friend, Gigi, who was the dwarf, Quinn, who was our rogue, and Maru, who was our necromancer, phylactery-esque child. It was all very complicated.
Phylactery child.
Our little phylactery child. But there were a lot of moments that, again, I put a lot of emphasis being a player and not a DM, which I am DMing my first ever thing with Kyle's channel soon, so that's coming.
Tomb of Annihilation on Tuesday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What chapter is she doing?
5.
Chapter 5 would be good for you, I think.
Yeah.
I'm finishing it off.
It's not very combat heavy. That's good. Yeah.
But I'm one of those people that focuses on like the player aspect, and there were many different times where if you're not invested as a player, you're not going to feel it. And I am very much be present, be in the moment, be a part of things, because if you don't in this moment, you're not going to feel it. But I mean, we could have killed all of the children if we weren't careful. We had to stumble across how would you put the babies? Like,
well, we're bouncing around the story.
Well, I'm not good at telling stories.
Yeah, well, for this one story, I'll tell it from my DM perspective, start to finish.
Okay.
For the sake of a memorable story that I had during this campaign that hit home with the players was, you went to a village, and the village was telling them they needed help. They were like, "Help us, adventurers! We need you. Our children have gone missing." They go wandering in the middle of the night, hearing some sort of siren call, and they just wander. And it goes even beyond that. Some people have tried literally tying up their children in basements just so it wouldn't happen. Somehow they would still get out. So they believe there's magic at play, there's a mystery here. Like, all of the youth are being taken. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And there's perpetual darkness over, like, this town that sits right betwixt a forest, a very enchanted forest, where at some point in time in the village's history, the huntsman was essentially this mysterious figure who showed up one day. They never knew who he was. He never told them about his past. But this huntsman shows up, and this town is on the verge of, starvation at the time. They're all just like gatherers, farmers. They don't know anything about hunting, and they don't do it because the enchanted forest is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
No one can pull it off. They're just people. He shows up one day. He's like, "I'll fix it." He comes in, and he starts hunting out of the forest. He starts bringing them exotic wild game and stuff. He sort of saves the village, and all he asks in return is that people leave him alone, and they don't ask who he is. They immediately acquiesce because it's essentially like the town's hero at this point. So by the time the players arrive, the huntsman's dead. He's dead and buried behind the mayor's house. They buried him with heroes' honors. They adored this man completely.
And we exhumed the body!
Their first instinct was to go dig up the village hero's body and use their neck, because one of the players is necromancer. He's like, I immediately want to, like, we're gonna dig it up, we're gonna summon it.
Okay, what level were they, if you don't mind me asking? Just see, I'm more interested in.
At that point,
3.
no, we were higher than that because
5.
We were level 6 by the time we got to the Earth
See,
Spirit.
that's a good level. They got speak with dead, so I get it, right?
Well, it also was one of those situations where me as a druid, who's all about life, and living's great, and our necromancer's like, can I go into the forest and find some rats and kill them so I can resuscitate them so they can be my little rat army?
Got an interesting
And my druid was like, what the fuck? I can speak with them. Why are we killing them? I don't understand.
Do like murder things just to raise them and then talk to them so you have their reasons, so on and so forth. Which I tend to like nix one way or another, I'd find a way to get it.
I'm like, no, there's nothing here.
You know, just so you couldn't keep breaking the game. But
Yeah.
after you exhumed the body,
Yeah.
it didn't work. You had to go into the forest, right?
Yeah, he was like, he says nothing. Nothing
Says nothing.
happens.
He
And I'm
says
like, so
nothing.
we just exhumed this war hero for nothing.
Yeah.
Technically, you didn't break the rules. I believe ceremony prevents you from resurrecting or speaking with dead. That's the whole point of the ritual.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's precisely
Yeah.
what happens.
That's why you bury people and burn
Yeah.
them.
And you give them their last rites and so
Yeah.
on. and so
Once you do
forth.
last rites, there's no short of, I believe, a wish is the only way to raise them.
Right.
Wh-
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So you can't just go digging in a graveyard and expect people to rise that easily. It requires some pretty next level necromancy to like.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, so they go into the forest, right, looking for children essentially, and they have to follow one of the villagers who is close enough with the huntsman to know his key markers in the forest, how to traverse it safely. After they get there, he's like, "All right, I'm out. I don't want to die here. Please find my son. Like, find our children.
Timmy.
I will be back here like tomorrow night. You know,
Sure.
and if you're not here and you're dead, we'll know. If you are, I'll bring you back. You know, because just don't wander into the forest. It's fairly dangerous, right?"
Right.
So they get there. And here's how the story sort of unfolds, right? So the huntsman, he has a lodge deep in this forest, very Snow White-esque looking. It's just old, dilapidated now. It's very, very on its own. They go into this place, and there's these strange blooming plants coming out of the entire front yard of this place, glowing, wisping, and like when they go up to them, they like bloom at the touch of the players, and like this energy comes out, and they're doing arcana checks trying to understand the magic here, and I'm like, this is essentially life force is what you're sensing. This is like spirit energy, you know.
The Feywild.
Yeah, and like they kept investigating, and they're like, you feel that the source of this energy is actually coming from the ground, from the base underneath this
Yeah,
plant.
so I transformed into a wolf.
Started
and
digging into it,
dug.
and there was essentially a rooted cocoon underneath this plant, and the children were in them. Essentially,
Oh.
they were all there. This entire
Like-
front yard was
Like
full
little
of
pond people.
Yeah,
Exactly.
little
Yeah,
pocket.
that's very
They were,
cool.
like, in stasis in these pods, and like it seemed like their life force was just being consumed and sent and dispersed out of the plant, essentially. So that's like their whole magical, awesome investigation tool that they used, and they wanted to try and break the cage. They were like kind of nipping at it, and I, as a DM in the background, I'm like, if you do this, it instantly kills them. Breaking the cage will just end it.
We had a pretty high arcana check on
Yeah.
Mara's part that allowed
I think
us
I was
to realize.
being nice at the time.
You
'cause
were
did
also
break
being
into
nice.
the cage a little bit. I had the child scream in pain, and they stopped. Like, nope, nope, we're out of here. And I was like, all right, that's fair. So they move into the hunter's lodge and start investigating. Here's where the whole story unfolds. Essentially, the whole story to be learned here about this mysterious huntsman. You know, because I've already sown the seeds
It's a
of like
really sad, amazing love story. It makes me sad.
who is this guy? Who is the huntsman? You know, what's his story essentially? And it starts to unfold the more they investigate his house. They dig through his room. They find like a journal expressing how a bit of his past. He used to be like a special agent in like an army for a foreign king. He was essentially an assassin of sorts, incredibly skilled hunter. You know, anyone caught outside was his prey. He was very good at what he did, and his prey was people for the longest time. He just absconded and left that life behind and wanted to find something new, and he stumbled across the village and started this life. That was the first clue, kind of his past. Then it started to dig a little more into his, you could say, present, where they found another clue. There was a wedding band inside of a box, and more journals. The wedding band was wrapped around, and it's a very like tribalistic ceremonial kind. You know, they used to hold hands and put wedding bands around their arms instead of having rings, which is a more modern thing. So they had the wedding band with another journal that expressed a story about the huntsman being in this forest. He found this barbarian shaman, and he knew her immediately. He knew her as this force, this horde of barbarians that lives in the nearby mountains on the other side of the forest that actually comes down and raids this village from time to time in the history of the village. He knew where she was, and decided, he was like, I'm going to take care of this person. I can see she is lost. I can see she is bereft, and she has a past similar to mine. I can see it in her eyes, the pain that she suffers. And he takes her in. He's like, it's against my better judgment. He's talking harshly. He's like, this is the stupidest thing ever. I'm just going to like feed her and get rid of her. and in doing so,
falls in love with him, of course.
falls in love over time, and the story, that bit of the story is revealed, and then they discover Crib. And,
This was the hardest part in the entire thing for us because there was, I don't remember what clue that was given, but me and Gigi, because it was 2 girls and 2 guys, right? So when you have 2 girls and you have 2 guys, they're going to react to things differently. And the first time Gigi and I see the crib, we go, we're not going in there. Nope. I'm not looking at that crib. I'm not doing it. Fuck you, Dylan. We're leaving. I'm not doing this.
A blanket drawn over a crib, and they know what's
Mhm.
everyone's on edge, and they finally draw it back. It took them forever to do it.
Oh my
you know,
god.
and there's 2 children, baby, dead inside of it, and they did their checks. They're like, the cause of death, malnourishment, starved and died, and that fit together with a clue as far as one of the side rooms was a food larder. All the food's gone. Every can, every canister,
missing.
every barrel, all the food had been eaten. Essentially, they ran out. That's where the clues come together. Children died of starvation, but the mom was nowhere to be seen. This barbarian woman they had heard of was nowhere here. Her mom wasn't here. Nothing here. So they dig deeper, and they go into the basement where they discover there's like this shamanistic chamber that the wife had actually created for herself in order to like sort of like keep to her culture, and like the huntsman wanted to pass that on to the children and stuff. It was very touching at the time, you know. But essentially, what had happened was, I know I'm probably gleaning over a few clues as I'm going back over it, but essentially what had happened was the huntsman, when the village had told him, because they buried him behind the mayor's house, he had died in a final skirmish battle against the same barbarian clan that she came from. They were coming in force. They had essentially they united enough of the clans to come in a force larger than they ever did before. The huntsman arranged a defense of the village and died gloriously in combat in defense of the town. The wife never knew. She never knew he was dead. She never knew what happened to him. He just never came home, but she always trusted him. And they ate all the food, and they waited, and they waited, and they waited.
Yep. Oh.
And out of desperation, she casts a spell of, like, suspension over the children.
Stasis,
It
yeah.
was essentially a life stasis spell to like try and sustain them for as long as she could. She knew they were starving and dying, and she left, and she survived and braved the enchanted forest. And she came out half dead on the other end to the same village that her husband tried to protect. And when they saw a barbarian woman coming through, they immediately killed her. They burned her. They knew she was a witch. They knew where she came from, and they murdered her. And the children stayed behind. Slowly died over time. So her spirit was trapped in this vengeful, banshee-esque kind of way, and she had manifested herself back at the lodge over her children. She essentially called out to all the children of the village to sort of like just wreak her vengeance. She wanted her children had to die for this. Theirs had to too, you know. So they, through all the clues and all the stories and stuff, the players had discovered that the best way to perform this ritual and the only way to do it correctly was to do it the shamanistic way. We're descended from very important shamans in the time, and they had to stack the children on a pyre, wrap the wedding band around them because it was a significant item from both their parents. It's for children who died prematurely in shamanistic culture, for them to have something of their parents that's important between them, and then they were burned and sent their spirits up and stuff like that. And only after that can the children be set free. You have to do that ritual. The banshee will appear, vengeful that you have done this, that you have like destroyed what she's been holding on to, is the bodies of the children. They defeat her. Having done those steps in that exact order, all the children are released. The banshee woman comes back in spirit form as the way she was before all of this happened, apologizes, says thank you to the party, and so on and so forth, and passes on. And then all the children are released, and they're let go. So that's kind of the whole story right there.
That's great, man.
And it was
cool.
such a bittersweet moment because,
Yeah.
like, we won, right? Like we won. We saved the children.
Right.
But
what
after hearing the story, it's
Right.
like we went back to the village and everybody's super happy, and we're like, "You guys are horrible people. Like, you don't know what you did. This in the end is
This
all your
adventure is
fault."
your fault, town.
It's
Yeah,
your
but that's
fault.
great, man. That's how it should be. Like,
Right.
It was amazing.
I really relate to you because that's how I run my games. I think it's too easy to say you're good and evil. I've always liked what is good and what is evil. I've always enjoyed that. I've always enjoyed, yeah, like sometimes the greater good has to outweigh the lives of individual people.
Well, it's been wonderful dating a DM because and I mean that so sarcastically, though sometimes I want to strangle him. But we've gotten to a point where, like, because I don't play as often, quite frankly, because I know way too much information about what's going on that it's unfair for me to play.
Right.
That we've started, like, coming together and creating ideas together, co-DMing. I'll play a lot of really important NPCs, and totally naturally, like, I'm sure a lot of players consider that every single time our characters at some point fall in love or have like those moments for no reason, and it's never planned and it just happens. But like, there was Into the Fairy Steps, where it's just your true fantasy love story of the prince is in love with a peasant woman and needs the help of the fairy godmother, who's actually a hag in the enchanted forest, to turn her into a princess. And it was just this wonderful, heartwarming moment where Dylan decides to turn the princess into me without telling me. So I am literally on stream, red as my hair, just like so embarrassed.
The pictures of the characters look eerily.
I love the
that.
Fairy Steps
The
story.
long-haired, dark-haired character, and I gave it like a red-haired princess. At the end of the tale, and it was like,
It's cool.
And it's been so much fun to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I heavily agreed with like the toting the line kind of thing, because we've had a couple campaigns and stuff that we've been doing where I'm very much like you. I'm very picky with my DMs. I'm a very present, very excited player here. So if my DM is not as passionate and not as into it as I am, I get very frustrated. I'm very picky.
goes both ways.
Honestly.
Hey, don't feel bad. I'm very elitist when it comes to.
I am. I really am.
I'm pretty bad.
But there was this moment, and I was very proud of the moment, actually. And I remember you were paying close attention. It was a very long 30-minute one-on-one NPC moment with me and one of the NPCs, who was a tiefling. And my character is an Eladrin from the Feywild, who's on the material plane following her destiny. And they got onto this talk of good and evil. And he asked the question, because I said, how do you get along in this town if you are a tiefling? You are from demon blood, like they don't like you. And he goes, so you think I'm evil? What? You think everything like this is evil? I was like, I don't believe in good and evil. I believe in power. You have power within you, and some people do not. Is that good? Is that bad? It doesn't matter, because on your end, it may seem good to you, but not good to someone else. Good and evil is nothing but a state of mind or an opinion. It is not true life. And like, there was this really impactful moment where it was like, I don't see evil or good. I see power.
Yeah.
And that was really, really cool.
Speaking of that, Cal's character is going to be neutral. Didn't you say you were going to make a neutral character? The next one?
I am. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Completely neutral. So I think it's going to be.
It's interesting to
gonna be
play a
Igor.
neutral character.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, I think. But guys, we've gone like way over our time here. No, it's fine. It's great because it's been a really immersive talk, and I'm glad that you guys have all had a chance to share your stories and like what really connects you guys as DMs, as players, both sides of that spectrum. It's really, really fun to see. I think that it's been great. You guys have done so well. Like, even like Dylan, the stuff that you've run that I've played in, I've loved it, every second of it. I've had a lot of good adventures with you. The same with Ben. I've had many great adventures with Ben. I mean, I'm not gonna like take the time to like get into all of those, but and I'm looking forward to getting into adventures with Ray and seeing his DM style and making some memories there as well. But before we go, do you guys have I guess some things of note? We've got Thursday will be the Adventures of the Knights Remnant prologue, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
I
Yeah,
guess
it's the
Backflash. I don't know. I don't know
yeah,
what to call it.
it's the quote unquote prologue, because we're gonna have two characters that can't be there, so we're gonna do a prologue episode instead of just carrying on the adventure without them. And then Tuesday we start Tomb of Annihilation,
Woo!
which is gonna be really exciting. We need to have a player meeting about that too.
Yeah, you guys really have fun with Tomb of Annihilation. When I ran it, it was one of my more favorite like published adventures that they'd put out. It was very sandboxy in beginning, but then it drills down to a really cool dungeon crawl.
And then Ben's got a couple things on Monday. He's helped run an adventure with some new players on the server, so that's going to be really cool.
Awesome.
Newer. What about you guys, Dylan? You guys have anything going on this week? You're streaming?
Well, our usual games are like Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're trying to bring in some new DMs to sort of like bring a new life to things. Usually Tuesdays and Thursdays we're doing our sessions. Sundays are always our tavern talks, roughly an hour before this one. We do what we call a tavern talk, whereas here it's the dungeon diving, where we just sort of like, we just muse about D&D in general. We've talked about rules, we've talked about engagement between player and DMs, advice, all kinds of. We have like troves of advice on how to interact with players and DMs and such. I don't really draw a lot of knowledge from past modules, but
Right.
I draw a lot of knowledge just from my experience in general and my general aptitude for the hobby. So
Right.
between Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, we've got some stuff going on, and I might do an improv off. This is a new game we've been introducing to
And
the
it's
community.
so much fun.
We've essentially created this neat game called Improv Off, where everyone sort of gets together in a head-to-head single elimination match, where they have 5 minutes or until they decide they're done to essentially play a prompt that we give them. They choose between silly, serious, and neutral categories.
And they all love the serious ones.
I love the serious
Jesus.
ones. They're so heavy.
It's easier. Oh, it's easier. That's why.
Yeah, it's so heavy to do serious, but essentially we grade them according to originality, relevance, and immersion. The entire premise of the game was meant to put people in a place to be slightly uncomfortable and to break out of their roleplay niches
Right.
and to experience themselves in a reactive roleplay setting. And I've seen enormous amounts of growth
It's
from
been amazing.
all people involved. It did
Mhm.
exactly what I wanted it to do. People who are role playing in games now are acting more assertive, are being more creative, stuff like that, just from by playing this game. So I'm trying to continue and
Yeah.
push this game forward and try and maybe make it like a little D&D staple thing, like
Yeah.
Putting the make believe back in D&D.
putting the make believe back in D&D is like our little mission statement. You know?
Right. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I think that's great. I think and Ben, I think you running games with new players. That's man, you get credit because I cannot do that.
Right.
Our first one was
Right.
last Monday, and that one went surprisingly well. I mean, the adventure that it was one that I had like built specifically for that.
That's cool.
But it went really well, and I'm really hoping that tomorrow's adventure.
Yeah, man. Kudos to you, bro. Really.
I think
We're gonna be having some
Because
fun with zombies in a forest. It's gonna be great.
That's a whole nother level right there, dude.
I think that it's really cool to see like this is all happening like within our community, right? Because like these are players that are new players that have not had much experience in Dungeons and Dragons, and they're coming in and Ben's like showing them the way, right? And they're gonna go from that into like playing in some one shots, and then eventually from that into playing in like the more experienced games, like in like the 3-part adventures and stuff like that. So I think it's really cool to see them like gradually going from like newbie to less newbie into more experienced games with more experienced players, and I think it's gonna be really cool.
My biggest thing about it is that I love the experience you just described, but like the underlying, motivation or mission behind it all is to show people that you can experience more in D&D. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily train you to
Right.
be better at the game. 'Cause it's not
Right,
like,
it's just to show you how to play.
Right.
It's just to show you that you're missing out.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people play this game on a very base level. I think Stephanie's a great example of how she had almost no memories from those awesome Fireside games, right?
Yeah.
There's a level of depth you can achieve. We're here to show you the way, not necessarily
Right.
train you to be a better player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's like the whole thing. Like we're here because we want people to have a good time and learn something that they might not have known before. Like at the end of the day, it's about the experience. Like if I can help, one person come in here and have a good experience in playing a game and have fun, then that's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's what it is at the end of the day. It doesn't matter, you know, how many games you play in or how good you role play, or like because there's no wrong way to do that. You know what I mean? It's about having a good time and learning something, and really, you know, finding yourself as a player, I guess you could say. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it. I am. I think
I love new players.
Yeah.
We played with you on Saturday. We had 2 players that were very new.
Very new, yeah.
And coming with a lot of experience and coming as a role-playing person, I love playing with new players because I love forcing them into interactions that they're not ready for.
And they both did great.
They did
They
fabulously.
did fantastic.
They're sitting here like, I feel like I did shit. And I was like, what are you talking about?
No.
You kept toe-to-toe with me, and I threw myself on you.
It's wonderful to experience the WoW factor.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
wow, that was cool. You know, what just
the
happened?
best.
It's like,
It's
I
the
know,
best.
right? It's like getting someone hooked on a drug to be, you know, I know.
Yeah.
It's like,
It
it was
is.
great, wasn't it? Come
Here's
back
your
for more.
first hit. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
But other than that, in closing, just a couple things. We did officially hit affiliate status on Twitch this week, so finally, thank you all, everyone in the chat or that will watch this video at some point. Thank you guys so much for being dedicated to the stream and watching our videos and putting up with all of the nonsense that goes on. It means a lot. Thank you guys for being a part of this. It's a huge thing to have dedicated
You're
friends.
welcome, son.
Thanks, Mom. So, other than that, I guess new goals that we're trying to hit now are just sub goals, really. We're going after the subs. So, like this week, we'd like to try and maybe get a few more. We're trying to aim for like 10 subs this week, if we can. So, if you guys want to sub to the channel, feel free. I mean, obviously, don't feel like you have to, but if you would, that'd be awesome. We'd really appreciate it.
What's the give though? If you get 10 subs, what's gonna happen? Are you gonna get a wig or?
figure
Maybe
something out.
something's gonna happen.
I'll figure something out.
Yeah.
I want
Um,
to see Kyle get a face paint kit.
At some point, we got a dice giveaway we need to
Yeah,
stream.
we've got
for hitting our 50
yeah.
earlier.
So-
We got 50 followers, so we got a dice giveaway. Importantly, for those of you who may be listening, when it comes to subs, if you are a Amazon Prime subscriber, you get a Twitch Prime sub for free. Use it. We prefer you use it here, but use it. It's free.
I gotta give it to you
Aw.
later, Kyle. I don't know how to do that, so just tell me how to do that.
Cool.
It's super easy. I am
Second
our
sub.
current first subscriber because
Yeah.
of that.
And then
I'll give you mine right now. I just don't know how to do
also,
it.
also Steph just subbed, so thanks for that.
I don't know how do I do that.
Oh, Amanda just subbed too.
You have a Twitch Prime sub, babe. Yeah, hit the subscribe. Okay, so you're gonna hit the subscribe button, and then you're gonna scroll down and.
Wait, I'm hitting the subscribe button. Wait, what?
Yes.
Wait, okay.
on Twitch.
Yeah, okay. I'm on Twitch.
Oh, you need to attach your.
Oh, I have to connect my. Okay, I have to sign up my.
Oh yeah, you'll have to probably do that first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. So
after that, it just hit subscribe. Go scroll down.
yeah.
Amazon or Twitch Prime subscriptions, one of the choices. Click it. It'll be great.
Yeah. So, while we're traversing the waters of Amazon and Twitch, we're gonna go ahead and go. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and talking. Thank you, those of you who just subbed literally in the last 30 seconds. So Amanda and Steph, thank you guys a lot. We'll talk to you guys in just a few minutes. We'll see you guys next week, or Thursday, actually. So have a good night, or afternoon, or wherever you are in the time zone spectrum.
Bye, guys.